Amir Ohana.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. I have to tell you, it's my first time in Australia, and I was deeply impressed of how much support the State of Israel gets here, both in from the Jewish community and from the political community as well. Surely, I want you all to understand that we do not take it as granted. We do not take it for granted. We highly appreciate it. In 2011, I raised with friends of mine the LGBT caucus of Likud, which did not exist until then, because normally only left-wing parties addressed LGBT community, as happens in many parts of the world. But this has changed, and now we are not only the largest, but also the most influential LGBT caucus in the Israeli Knesset, having a Knesset member, which is also myself. However, the main issues that I'm concerned with, and the main issues that I address as a member of the Defense and Foreign Affairs Committee, are the existential ones, or if you want, the terror that we face since we have established our state. And although we have celebrated recently Israel's 68th birthday, and the war of independence surely is over, the struggle for the existence of the State of Israel has not over yet. I think more than others, the Israeli people has proven throughout the years that it both wants peace and needs peace. We need it. Being so small, surrounded by regimes that strive to exterminate us, literally, at least some of them. But in order to have peace, and this, my friends, is what we face, you need to have another side that both wants peace and has the political stability to maintain peace. When I take a look at what we have on the other side, I'm sorry to say that still we don't have none of those. When I see the Palestinian Authority name streets and buildings after our greatest terrorist, the government building in Ramallah is named after Yihya Ayash, al-Muhandis, the engineer. He's responsible for the death of more than 100 Israelis. Is that a partner for peace? When I see Mahmoud Abbas himself, Abu Mazen, flies all the way to Turkey to meet Amna Mona, shake her hands and accept her as the hero of the Palestinian people. Amna Mona, let me tell you, if you don't remember, she's the one who, she's an Arab youngster, chatted on the internet with 16 years old Ofir Rachum from Ashkelon, from the city of Ashkelon. And she tempted him to come and meet her. And he, as 16 years old do, he was tempted. And he came and he met her, but she was not alone. She waited with two gunmen who shot him dead. And we caught her, and she was sentenced to life. But unfortunately, we had to release her at the Gilad Shalit deal. We needed to release more than 1,000 terrorists that we held in order to have one of our own soldiers that was held by Hamas in Gaza and to release him. And we did it. It was very difficult. It was very hard. Very controversial to this day. Because some of them went out and murdered more Israelis. But we did it. And Abu Mazen himself flies to Turkey to meet her and to accept her as the hero of the Palestinian people. And I ask you, is that a partner for peace? In our 68 years, despite the fact that we have not known even one day of peace with our entire neighbors, look at what the State of Israel has managed to achieve. Look at what we have managed to do, not only survive, And look at the state of Israel, being a startup nation, a leader in technology, a leader in agriculture, of course in security, defense, we have no choice. Look how small we are and how loud we sound. The world listens to us, the world hears us, and we share values. Australia and Israel, we share values of freedom, freedom of speech, freedom for women, freedom for LGBTs. And we also, unfortunately, share enemies. I hope, and this is the message that I take with me back home, that we will remember and appreciate and cherish our dear friendship and our struggles to come. And I'm sure that if we will succeed in remembering those things, peace will come. Eventually, peace will come.
On one of the visits last year, I was part of a group of, as Colin said, of international generals who was asked to make an ethical assessment of Operation Protective Edge, the last war with Hamas in Gaza. And it was fascinating to come back to Australia and to then be involved in the debate over the findings that we made. Later on that same year, I think it was, we went back again and we were part of a delegation. It commemorated the 98th anniversary of the Battle of Beersheba. Most Australians know the Battle of Beersheba because Peter Weir made a magnificent film out of it. And like most films, it was all about myths and legends, and it's always difficult to figure out whether you're talking about a myth or talking about a legend. But it was certainly a legend how a small group of Australians who had found themselves out on the flank of the British forces advancing north, caught without food, caught without water, had to make a desperate charge across the Turkish lines to get into the wells that would provide them with water to then move around, go to Jerusalem and go to Damascus. It was the kind of thing that we would like to think of ourselves as Australians. This was we had many of these, what they call light horse organisations. They were not cavalry, they had no swords. They were supposed to use horses to get close to the enemy and dismount and then fight. And all of a sudden someone decided to use them as a cavalry unit charging the enemy. And in a good, as we see cavalry in the movies, they have big long swords and they can slash and do things. These guys had no swords, they had bayonets that long, which were fundamentally useless as they charged the Turkish lines. But they did it. We share extraordinary values with Israel. And it's fascinating, having spent a lot of time in the Middle East, it's fascinating to look around the Middle East and see where our values keep coming back to. But Napoleon is reputed to have said that the borders of a nation's interests are marked by the graves of its soldiers. There's an awful lot of truth in that, in an old sense. And if that's the case, then our interests in Australia are very, very broad indeed. We spoke about this at what we call the Beersheba Dialogue. It's going on at the moment in Israel and will come back to Australia in December. Issues such as proportionality, humanity, distinction, which are how I brought down the embodiment of international law to me on a minute-by-minute basis, was something that I lived and breathed. But like all law, it's open to interpretation. And it's not as though international law says you cannot kill civilians. International law says that you must not intend to kill civilians, because everyone recognises that in war, the victims are always going to be the civilians caught in the middle. And this is a very real problem for all of us. But having set a kind of a standard, we all try and work above the standard. Israel could make a decision that it would rather not kill the very bad people in order not to kill innocent civilians. And it made that decision time and time again, which put it right at the top of the pile.